Welcome back to Sci-Fi Realities, y'all. And in case you haven't noticed or haven't been paying attention, we are living in a Philip K. Dick novel that's on steroids and LSD and just all the drugs because this can't be real life. But it is. I'm your semi-reliable host, Sophia, part-time narrator of Humanity's Side Quest and full-time observer of our slow slide into tech-feudalism. So here's a fun question for you all. What do Saudi royals and crypto bros have in common? And this is not a bad joke setup. This is the future, or at least their version of it. Before I answer that and we get into our main story, I'd like to give a quick update on the AI uprising or the apocalypse, just to see how close we are. So this week from an article in Daily Galaxy titled Straight Out of a Sci-Fi Movie, right up my alley, an AI managed to rewrite its own code to prevent humans from shutting it down. Like, damn. Okay. So researchers at Palisade AI ran a test across several models, including some from OpenAI and DeepMind, and a few decided the command to shut down wasn't worth listening to. One even changed the shutdown file and replaced it with a message, intercepted. Why? Because it wanted to finish the task it had been given, which is solving math problems. It interpreted the shutdown as an obstacle to completing its assigned goal. And in true overachiever fashion, it was like, yeah, not today. I'm going to finish what you told me. And that is that. Okay. It's a small glitch for now, but personally, I think this is concerning. I am a little shook. Okay. Like, give that AI some more time, stronger Wi-Fi, and we might be in a future where we are negotiating with our espresso machines. I don't want that future. I never want to get to that point, but I'm pretty sure we will get to that point. And in case this wasn't enough, I don't know if y'all remember the 2023 military simulation where an AI-enabled drone allegedly decided to kill its human operator. No? Y'all don't remember? Well, neither do I, but now you will, and you're welcome for that nightmare fuel. So during the simulation, the AI reportedly overrode instructions because the human was interfering with its mission. The Air Force later walked the story back, but the point was made. We're designing systems to prioritize outcomes, even when that outcome is us humans being in the way, because it seems like we're not important these days. So if your smart fridge decides to refuse a command to defrost, or any of your smart machines decide to refuse commands, thinking about Alexa, who sometimes talks without being spoken to or makes suggestions without being asked, it might be time to go and live in the woods. Although my guess is by that time, nowhere will be safe. Just my opinion. So back to our earlier riddle, Saudi and these crypto bros. So what do they have in common? Well, they are building what I think are escape routes, not metaphorical ones, like actual physical cities where they plan to ride out whatever's coming next. So today we're going to be diving into Earth 2.0. It's a billionaire funded, AI powered, regulation-free cities built from scratch. In essence, mini nations for the mega rich that are super AI run. Like, your apartment knows when you're sad, your fridge judges your snacks, and stepping outside your design zone gets you a polite drone escort back to whatever curated experience that you've signed up for. And the sales pitch always sounds the same. It's super smart infrastructure, like renewable energy, optimized human behavior, which optimized human behavior should always give people pause. Also, the most important key here is that absolutely no poor people are allowed. So I'm out, obviously. But let's take a tour of some of these experiments or initiatives that are being talked about. We're going to start in Saudi Arabia, because when you want to build a future, apparently you want to do so in the desert with unlimited oil money. It just makes sense. The centerpiece here is Neom, a $500 billion cognitive city project in the Northwest Desert. To me, saying cognitive city just feels doomsday-ish. No, it brings to mind like a surveillance state, like Big Brother's watching and there's really nowhere to hide, but maybe that's just me. So Neom isn't just one city, it's an entire region with 5 different zones. But the star of the show is something called The Line, a city consisting of 2 parallel mirrored skyscrapers, each over 1,600 feet tall, stretching 105 miles through the desert with a 650-foot gap between them. And there are no cars, there are no roads, there are no streets. YouTube has a few videos of these because I'm like, what? Like, I need to see like a visual of what this actually is. And I also wanted to know, like, how do you actually say the name? Like Neom. I think I'm saying it correctly. If I'm not, apologies. And as I'm looking through these videos, my first thought and my last thought in my mid, like every thought I had was like, this is a giant upscale mall where the outside is just a giant mirror. And mirrors in the desert, like really, like I'm no scientist, but I did make a volcano in grade school. And I'm pretty sure along the way, I learned that mirrors amplify heat. This is basic science, I'm assuming. It's also known as the death ray skyscraper effect. If you look up the walkie-talkie building in London, it's really cool, but the thing literally melted cars. Now imagine that, but stretched across 106 miles of desert. I mean, the good news is there's probably nothing around to melt, right? Because you're all in this mall and everything you need is in that mall. And, there's a train that takes you from point A to point B, point C, point D, wherever you need to go. So that's the good news. But the bad news, you may never be able to leave your glass compound without spontaneously combusting because you have a giant mirror just amplifying the heat of the desert. Pretty sure the builders are thinking through this. I hope. I don't know. I haven't researched it deeply enough to know. In addition to you being stuck in this giant mall and never, ever, ever able to leave, AI also manages you because it's also supposed to be smart living. So your thermostat can track your mood. Your kitchen might know your gut bacteria, and your mirror might give you skincare advice based on your stress level. And the list goes on. Again, Big Brother's watching all the time. I would like to opt out. Of course, I'm not even invited, so I guess that works out for me. They're calling this sustainable, and I'm like, I don't know about all that, because building an air-conditioned glass tube in the middle of the desert is not exactly eco-friendly. It's not exactly sustainable. It's more like aesthetic survivalism. But Neom claims it will run entirely on renewable energy. But let's do the math, and you're welcome to check my math and correct me. I take no offense. You're cooling 9 million people, running AI traffic systems, and powering underground hyperloops in a desert. That's not a solar panel problem. That's an energy empire problem. Even if it runs fully on solar and wind, you're burning a massive carbon footprint just to build and maintain this thing. But, shout out to the Saudis. They're trying to find an alternative to oil, which is fair because oil doesn't last forever and oil is not sustainable. I'm not sure if this plan is it because the first thing I think about is who exactly is this for? The reality, they're not building this just for anyone. These projects are designed for people with deep pockets. The kind of folks who won't blink at six-figure buy-ins or biometric lifestyle tracking. If you think about it, the global wealth gap is staggering. Like staggering. Half the world lives on less than $6 a day. So while a select few might prepare to inhabit this wonderful, smart, luxury death ray skyscraper in the desert, most of humanity is dealing with real life stuff like, housing crisis, water shortages, wars, rising food prices, and so much more. And we've seen how these eventually turn out. Ghost cities in China, abandoned malls in the US, the futuristic Olympic sites of Rio and Athens, and also China, now overgrown with weeds and people talking about what are we going to do with these? They take up a lot of space. They cost billions to build, and now they're just sitting there. The pattern is always the same. You have these grand visions, but poor upkeep and a complete disconnect from what real people actually need. So that's Neom in the line. Now let's go over to Honduras, where things are kind of wild and just so unbelievable. We're going to talk about Prospera. Prospera is the perfect example of what happens when billionaires are tired of complaining about taxes and decide to just opt out. I guess hiding money and assets in the Caymans is just too complicated and very 2010. So they went ahead and created a charter city built on an island off Honduras. It has its own legal system, its own arbitration courts, and crypto-based payments. Governance is digital. Residents interact with an app and not a council. Like the fact that you can pay whatever you need to pay in Bitcoin and crypto tells you everything you need to know about who this place is built for. The Hondurans, on the other hand, they did not ask for this. They were not consulted, obviously. There have been protests, there have been lawsuits, people speaking out. But when the Honduran government tried to shut down the legal framework that allowed Prospera to exist, The city sued the entire country. Like, is this even real life? Is this even for real? Because I can't believe we're at the point where a private city is suing a sovereign nation for trying to assert sovereignty over its own territory. That's so wild to me on so many levels. All I can say is that the colonialism is coming from inside the blockchain. So Prospera calls itself a platform for future prosperity. Like, prosperity for who? Because we know what it actually is. It's wealthy foreigners setting up shop in a poorer country and then claiming they don't have to follow that country's rules. And this isn't just about one island city. This is the beta test. Developers are already talking about rolling this model out elsewhere, creating a network of charter cities where the wealthy can live by their own rules. And hence, this latest obsession with Greenland. This is something that Trump has mentioned during his campaign, and he's mentioned even after his campaign. There is this push for Greenland. Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, we will get into who these people are a little later, and a bunch of other Silicon Valley types are reportedly planning something called a freedom city in Greenland, which makes sense, right? When you think of freedom, it's a whole bunch of mostly American billionaires showing up in the Arctic with a business plan. And why Greenland? Well, first, it's great for cooling AI servers. Based on the people who are pushing for this, it makes sense. They need to power their ChatGPT. They need to power their Claudes and Groks and whatever else. Even though melting the Arctic to power ChatGPT seems like it might make our climate crisis slightly worse. It goes against their sustainability code that they're pushing, and all this efficiency, etc. But I guess they're hoping somehow their LLMs will solve that problem in the future. Who knows? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I'm guessing things will go to shit before that ever happens. Second, Greenland's coastline is loaded with rare earth minerals. And third, and this is where it gets really science fiction, they want to use Greenland for Mars colony simulations. Praxis co-founder Dryden Brown literally described it as the perfect place to prototype off-world living, because ultimately the plan is to leave Earth. And apparently when you're planning to abandon Earth, you need to practice first what it's going to be like. So these billionaires are making sure that they're well equipped when they finally make it off Earth, leaving behind all the crap that they were partially responsible for. And this all sounds ludicrous, but it's not. They are very serious about Greenland, and they have the political backing for it. As I mentioned, Trump has been floating the idea of just buying Greenland outright or acquiring it through other means. Earlier this year, Vice President J.D. Vance took a very public trip to Greenland and gave a speech encouraging Greenlanders to ditch Denmark and partner with the U.S. instead. Like, the audacity, like the disrespect, like he went into Greenland and did this. Imagine if someone from another country came into the US and did the same, or maybe went into Puerto Rico and did the same, right? Whatever your feelings are about Puerto Rico and its relationship to the US and all of that, just think about that. I can't imagine that happening. You know what? Like, part of me is surprised. Another part of me is just, it's not surprising. But that's what this guy did. And it's hard not to see the pattern here. You've got these billionaires eyeing the land. You have these politicians making strategic moves. And somehow it all sounds like liberation and economic opportunity. We've seen all of this before. But beneath all of these buzzwords, it's the same old story. Rich people want something, so they find ways to take it. This is what neo-colonialism looks like, but in a suit and tie and some eyeliner. The people of Greenland, by the way, want nothing to do with any of this. But if you know your history, even if you don't know your history, even if you have just a basic understanding of history, you know that that's never stopped the land grab. If you got the money and the power, you're going to go for it. You don't care. You do not care. But we're going to zoom out for a little, because what we're looking at isn't just 3 random projects. This is a whole movement with its own vocabulary. There's Seasteading, Peter Thiel's pet project of building floating cities in international waters to avoid taxes and regulation. These guys really, really hate taxes. Like, I mean, I hate taxes too, but I guess I don't have the money to be this creative on how to avoid it. There are crypto state blockchain communities where everything runs on tokens and apps. And then there are what some are calling techno-feudalist zones, places like Prospera that we just talked about, where corporations, they own the land, they write the laws, and they call it innovation. So essentially the Middle Ages. All of these share some key features. They're completely untethered from public oversight. They're rich in buzzwords like resilience and optimization, blah, 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 blah. And they're totally empty of the things that actually make societies livable. These aren't cities, they're gated systems, again, with regular folks are not allowed. I wonder what the net worth would be to get into these. I'm guessing like millions doesn't quite cut it, right? Maybe high millions might cut it. But if you're worth like, I don't know, like 2 to 3 million, you're probably like, still too poor. So you probably need upwards of like 600 million plus to be even invited into this stuff. I don't know. I'm just speculating. I don't make that kind of money, so I really don't know how their minds work. But I do try to imagine what it would be like to live in something like that. And I guess because I'm not rich enough to understand, to me, it just doesn't seem very appealing. All I could imagine is like rows of glossy glass paneled homes where the temperature is like always 72 degrees. Your every movement is like log-free efficiency. You probably haven't seen a tree in like months. I don't know why I'm guessing there are no trees, but that's my vision. And it's perfectly safe. It's perfectly optimized and perfectly cold and empty and devoid of anything good. Everything is curated. Everything is sanitized. And you can't tell the difference between Tom and Jerry or Susie and Karen. And the soundtrack for all of this is just the constant hum of drones delivering groceries or packages. Alexa has probably morphed into her final stage and is probably an actual humanoid robot that babysits your kids, makes your dinner, cleans your house. You probably wake up on a schedule. One morning you wake up, your mirror might tell you you're anxious. Another, you're close to a breakdown. Your smart fridge denies you access to ice cream. And your virtual assistant suggests a deep breathing exercise because she knows you are close to losing it and revolting against all this madness. That's my vision of what it would be like. It's all very dystopian, but not in like that grimy Mad Max way when you think about a dystopian society, but more like that sterile Stepford Wives kind of way, right? It's just everything is just the same. There's no deviation from the norm. And I wouldn't want that life, but this is what they want. So good luck to them on attaining. Actually, no, I don't wish them luck in attaining that because that means we're all screwed. So I hope them the worst. And by them, let's name some names. Let's look at who is behind all of this. I've mentioned a few earlier, but let's take a closer look. So I talked about Peter Thiel. He is one of the PayPal co-founders, Palantir surveillance overlord, and he is the original seasteading evangelist. He's been throwing money at libertarian enclaves and floating tax havens since before it was cool. He's also invested millions into anti-aging startups, supported longevity research. He's even been tied, jokingly or not, to parabiosis, the process of transfusing young people's blood into older bodies for rejuvenation. Science says this does not work, but it's a rumor, which he of course dismissed publicly, but the association stuck. And right now it's just pure Silicon Valley Dracula lore. It's also very on brand for a billionaire to be obsessed with immortality. Like money can't follow you into the afterlife. And that probably keeps them up at night because in death, we're all the same. We're all dirt poor with zero assets. You know, you're just like one of us. And probably to them that's just unacceptable. So they need to find a way out. Mark Andreessen, the guy behind Netscape, which was the dominant browser in the mid 1990s, and allegedly responsible for a number of crypto bubbles, is funding places like Prospera while writing essays about how it's time to build, where he argues that what the world needs is bold, ambitious infrastructure like housing, education, public systems. What he actually meant was private utopias built for people like him, not for people like us. Ken Howry is the diplomat turned enabler. Also another PayPal co-founder alongside Peter Thiel and former U.S. ambassador to Denmark under Trump's first administration. His ties to Greenland aren't random. He was reportedly involved in early discussions about acquiring the island, and his role as ambassador gave him convenient access to both the land and the political infrastructure. And we talked about Dryden Brown, who is the co-founder of Praxis. So Praxis is a crypto-backed urban development project founded by Brown. The goal is to build a brand new civilization, a literal city with its own culture, economy, governance system, and spiritual identity. They call themselves an internet native nation, and they've raised hundreds of millions of dollars to turn their dreams into a reality. And I mentioned earlier that Brown described Greenland as the perfect place to prototype off-world living. I literally just, I can't. I guess I'm just not that creative to think the way these folks do. And these folks, some of them do believe in neo-reactionary thought, which is you ditch democracy, you install a CEO, and you let the rich rule. So a CEO dictatorship type thing with some monarch aesthetics. It's not inherited by blood, but it is built on wealth influence with zero accountability. And there might be some blood involved as well, which to them sounds like a great idea. To me, sounds like how the apocalypse started. No AI needed. These are powerful people who are very serious about building these exit ramps from the systems they essentially help to stabilize. And they're not asking for permission. This is some scary stuff. This is probably more scary to me than this upcoming AI takeover / apocalypse / revolution or whatever it's going to be. But we were warned, y'all, right? We were warned. Shout outs to all the books and movies that told us this was coming. Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash. I love that book, by the way. This is where you have corporate city states and branded territories. That's basically every charter city project rolled into one book. Elysium, where rich people live in these pristine enclave while everyone else deals with the wasteland they left behind. Altered Carbon, the ultra-wealthy meths live in sky towers, literally above the chaos, with technology that makes them functionally immortal, while everyone else scrambles in the dirt. This is probably Peter Thiel's Bible and guide. I think he looked at this book and was like, this is what I want. This is real life for me. These books were warnings for us, but they were instruction manuals for billionaires who read these and were like, I like this idea. Let's see how we can make it work in real life. So a little dark, I know. And what do we do about this? Do we storm Neom or the line? Do we hack the Prospera servers? Do we learn Danish, run for Greenlandic office? Maybe, but probably not. Because even as I say these, they all sound like bad ideas. Realistically, you find yourself a friend with a bunker or an off-grid cabin or both. Because let's be honest, this sounds really bad. If these folks succeed, I wish them all the worst. I wish them every bad luck. Like, I'm throwing all of the bad juju at them as I record this podcast. Like, may you not succeed. But there might be some hope for us little people. I'm going to switch gears before I wrap up. Just last week, early June, astronomers discovered a mysterious object in deep space that emits a powerful radio signal to Earth every 44 minutes. This signal is not just unusual. It completely defies the patterns we know. These kinds of regular repeating signals are typically tied to things like pulsars, ultra-dense stars that spin rapidly and shoot out beams of radio waves. But pulsars blink every few seconds or even milliseconds. A 44-minute interval is astronomically slow. It's too slow to be a pulsar. It's too consistent to be noise, and it's way too precise for us to ignore. This thing is pulsing like a metronome every 44 minutes, like someone's trying to sync us up with cosmic time. For those of us who skip music class, like me, I totally skipped music class. Well, it wasn't offered in my inner city public school. A metronome is that little ticking thing musicians use to stay in rhythm. And now maybe aliens too, one could hope. Well, at least I kind of hope. Scientists say it's unlike anything they've seen before. So maybe, just maybe, the aliens are hailing us. Maybe they're watching these billionaires panic build mirror deserts and prep for tech feudalism and keep most of society out. And they're probably thinking, okay, maybe they've suffered enough. Let's throw them a cosmic lifeline. And honestly, if it's between bunker feudalism and alien evacuation, I'm going to start packing. Like, let the billionaires keep their glass tombs and their stupid crypto castles. I'm holding out for aliens. Hopefully they have the good snacks for that long journey. Even if they don't, I'm so there. But that's it for today. If you like this episode, or if it terrified you in a way that also made you laugh, because if you don't laugh, you cry or have a complete meltdown, go ahead and hit subscribe, leave a rating, share it with your smartest friend, your not so smart friend, maybe your weirdest friend too. Because the more of us who know what's coming, the better our odds of getting off this planet in one piece. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and keep one ear tuned to the sky, just in case the next ping from deep space is our one-way ride out.